Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pirates Parley, episode 28. Oh, I need to change that in the header. This week, I have one of the most influential people on the podcast in the Solana ecosystem. Without further ado, please put your hands together to none other than Lucas from Jito. Hey, hello, good sir.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. How are you? And how's your day been thus far?
It's pretty good. Finishing my first cup of coffee, so go get another one pretty soon.
All right. I had the Raposa guys on a few episodes ago.
Yeah,
Apparently, having more than 10 double espressos on a day is too much, they told me. But yeah,
that might be.
we'll see. Everything's
Yeah, their
still
stuff's
works.
good.
They're
It's
really
like
good.
it's like crack.
Yeah. Well, haven't tried crack, but thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
for the people that don't know you, please, give a brief overview of what happened in your life that led you to this point.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty high level, but yeah, I'm Lucas. I'm co-founder and CEO at Jito Labs, and we build key infrastructure for Solana. I guess like the quick overview is I grew up in Missouri and then went to college in Pittsburgh. Ended up in San Francisco for 6 years. Worked at a few different startups there, and then ended up, I kind of had that crypto bug for a while, starting in like 2017 and 2020. Made the jump into it full time and started Jito with my co-founder, and the rest has just kind of been a giant blur since.
All right, I can imagine. So these startups where you work, were they also crypto startups, or did you work in other fields before this as well?
No, they were not crypto startups. So when I was in college, I did internship at Tesla. So I worked on the Model X on the body controls team. So that's the car with like the cool falcon wing doors, and it's kind of like a robot. Like there's a ton of actuators and things that move and light up on that. And so my team was we were just programming all that stuff. It's like the trunk and the doors and the seats and how they move and communicate with each other, and how you can like touch the touch screen and it would send a signal and move the seats. So that was super super cool. It was like right before the Model X released. Um, so yeah, that was fun. And then when I got out of college, I went and did I think 2 years at a small startup, like kind of hardware consultancy. So it was right around 30 or 40 people, and companies that didn't know how to build hardware would come to us, and we would prototype it, and they would be able to show their teams, and maybe we would do a run of like a few hundred devices that they could go use them and kind of scale up their own internal teams. So there I worked on like I think of probably like 10 projects in 2 years. So I just would just kind of get dropped into a project and have to figure out what was going on, how do I build this. So it's everything from um, like Amazon Echo type devices where there was like some voice activation, and you'd talk to it and be able to order stuff, to like an Xbox controller for surgical robots. So that one was pretty interesting. I got to go into a room with a doctor and a cadaver, and he had this controller that I wrote the software on, and it was for uh, like esophagus surgery and diagnoses. So it was like going down the cadaver's throat, and he was like telling me how the controller was working. And then other projects like
Wait, hold up. A human cadaver or an animal cadaver?
human.
Oh,
Yeah.
bro, that's that's crazy.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
yeah, going from like the voice activated device to that was just like a complete 180. Um, and then yeah, there was other stuff like bringing up circuit boards for virtual reality headsets, to um, tracking of packages in cities. where you don't have really good GPS. So the GPS signal is bouncing off all the buildings, and you can't triangulate. So like using Wi-Fi signals and stuff like that to get better locations. So I did time there, and then I saw this really cool company doing construction robots called Built Robotics. So I joined there as like the fourth or fifth engineer, working on, I think my second week there, we got a 50,000 pound bulldozer, and it's like, all right, this guy lent it to me for 2 weeks. See if we can figure out how to like drive it and control it. So I was like in the cab. We had this tiny little dirt lot in San Francisco, and I was in the cab, like ripping it apart. So it's like, oh, I see this joystick here. The human uses it. Like, where are the wires for it? So like ripping apart the cab, and then you like tap into the wires, see what the signals were, and then sourcing like Arduinos to like, inject that signal back into the machine. And then basically going from that all the way to like the full control software for it. So like being able to move the bulldozer blade up and down, to driving it around and using the parking brakes and all that stuff. So that's really cool. Like, got to travel to different construction sites around the country and like kind of developing in the field. So it'd be like working with the construction crews and all that. And that was like kind of a full circle moment for me, because my dad owns his own construction company. So it's kind of like combining the computer engineering stuff that I did before with the construction element. And yeah, I would say after I left there, I was like thinking of going to do my own thing in robotics, and then ended up joining a lidar company called Ouster. So I was working on lidar firmware. And then, yeah, at that time I was like kind of trying to figure out what to do. And this was like 4 years after I first discovered crypto. So I was like kind of staying in the loop on stuff. I wasn't actually building, it was more like investing. And then I discovered MEV, and just like fell down that rabbit hole big time. And that's kind of like what ended up birthing Jito.
Nice. So did you must have started diving into the MEV rabbit hole on EVM in that case?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was, I think I said I started Jito in 2020, but it was actually 2021, but end of 2020, COVID, all that stuff. I discovered this project called KeeperDAO at the time, and they were kind of doing some MEV stuff, and then discovered Flashbots and all this trading. And I just got really sucked in. Like, it kind of felt like the new high frequency trading, and anyone could participate. So, you could go in there and spin up your validators and like start to get connected to the services. Like, there's on Solana, we have like shred stream and stuff like that, but there's block propagation services on Ethereum that have existed for a while. And you could just like get plugged in and start writing your bot. And so yeah, I just like fell down that rabbit hole massively. So I'd be at my startup job during the day, and then I'd get home and work on this bot at night. And I did that for a few months, but it was like, it's just ultra competitive, and it's a full-time job. There's a lot of money to be made, but if you wanted to be good, it was a full-time job. And so I kind of put it on the side, and ended up kind of circling back to that with Jito.
So why did you quit robotics and go into something as static as crypto? Do you miss it sometimes?
I miss it a little bit, especially right now with all the stuff going on in AI. I think it's a really good time to be in robotics, especially simple robots like construction equipment. You don't have to worry. You're in these like remote environments. The environment's very easy. You're working on really cool equipment. I definitely miss it sometimes, but I think in crypto you can just move really fast, and I like on things that I studied. I focused on embedded systems in college, and embedded systems are kind of like the system. It's like the software that interacts with the real world. And I feel like there's like kind of some element of that with like the financial system and money, where the money isn't actually physical on the blockchain, but you're still kind of interacting with things that are real in a way.
I think it must be something in the industry that attracts people who are enthusiastic about robotics and AI to crypto. It's crazy because I had Miles on from Trustless Engineering, who also works at Triton One, obviously. But he is like a robotics nut as well. And the big hackathon winner was also more a robotics project than a crypto project, in my opinion. Interesting. All right.
What was that project?
I'm not sure. It was something about training robots or training AI for robotics.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Weren't you on the judges panel for the last hackathon?
I think I was on it for one. I can't remember which one though.
All right. Well, if you want, I can send the the entry later on. All right. So did Jito start as a EVM company, or was Jito only formed after you got in touch with Solana, and how did that happen?
Yeah, yeah, we've only been Solana from the beginning, and yeah, the way I've discovered Solana is, so yeah, I've been in crypto for a while from the investing standpoint, fell down the MEV rabbit hole, put that aside, and kind of started seeing stuff on Twitter. I was doing a lot of like lurking on Twitter, so just reading stuff, not really posting, and discovered the Solana thing from the investing standpoint. Um, Obviously, at the time, SBF had a much better reputation, and I think I saw his infamous $3 tweet. So I'm like, okay, what is this? I need to look at this a little more. Started going down that rabbit hole. I'm like, okay, these guys actually like know what they're doing. They are hardcore systems engineers, like pretty low level engineers, kind of like I was doing before. Tully and Michael Vines and Trent and all these guys, they know what they're doing. And I kind of got nerd sniped by it. And then I saw the first Solana hackathon in 2021. I think it's like March. So I decided to do something on there, build on it. It was so painful to build on it. There was no documentation. Anchor was like brand new. So I was in Armani and I were chatting a bunch. Like somehow I got connected to him and was working on stuff there, and ended up building this hackathon project. And then I'm like, okay, this is cool. There's like a ton of stuff to do here. It's very fast. The people know what they're doing. And I was like, okay, what can I build here? I kind of had a few ideas on like things that in retrospect were not a very good idea, or not the best idea. And then at the same time, I was kind of like monitoring what was going on in the MEV world. And I think Polygon was like kind of had a lot of activity. Ethereum was really crazy. BSC, Binance, the Binance chain was really crazy. And all these chains were suffering from a lot of spam. They had really cheap transaction fees, really high throughput. And then when I started to look at the Solana architecture, I'm like, okay, there's going to be some same problems here. Like it's using UDP for packet ingress. So you can just like spam it. The scheduler is essentially randomized. So like, the ordering of the transactions is not super deterministic. So that's going to invite spam because people are just going to, if it's not deterministic, they're just going to send the same transaction a bunch and hopefully one thing lands.
Spray and pray.
I really believe in, say what?
Spray and pray.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you're around for those times, and maybe we can dive into it later, but there was a lot of crazy shit happening. Yeah, so I started like looking into that. I'm like, okay, I think there's like something here. I saw a lot of the success that the Flashbots team was having on Ethereum. And I was like, okay, this is a solid platform that people know what they're doing. and I feel like there's opportunity here to like come in and help the network and help it scale and all that. And so, yeah, I put out a tweet, said I'm like looking for some badass engineers, and this guy, Ponlard69, connected to me to my co-founder Zano, and we start chatting and really hit it off. And then we started Jito and started raising after that.
Awesome. So did you eventually win in the hackathon, or was it just like the gateway drug into the Solana ecosystem?
Yeah, it was definitely the gateway drug. It helped introduce me to the programming model and some of the people in it. And then also got connected to people at Solana. So like the Solana Ventures team and some of their people, and kind of was bouncing some ideas off of them at the time.
All right. Awesome. So if one person were to ask me, what does Jito do? I would find it very difficult to describe what it is that you guys do, what type of company you are, because you guys, like Triton, work on Solana infrastructure. A good portion of the ecosystem is built, partly on top of Jito infrastructure as well. You guys were one of the first people to offer shreds. There was a public mempool. You guys recently released your own scheduler. So what is the business basically?
Yeah, I think of us as a market layer company. So I would say there's a few things to the market layer, and the market layer is kind of just all the stuff around the financial markets on Solana. So on the capital side, markets obviously have capital, they require capital. And I think that the capital side is Jito solves. So that's the liquid staking token. There's the execution side, and I would say that's the side that we focus on a lot. And that's like how transactions are sequenced and blocks are built. And then there's also the access side, and that's kind of what we've been focusing on more recently with JTX. So like, how do you actually access the markets? How do we give people the best experience when they are trying to trade on these markets? And all these things kind of complement each other. So like on the execution side, we're focused on really good execution for market makers and also users. And so like, that's kind of how we approach it. We really think about the applications and users. So that's how when we think about like building blocks and how BAM works and all that stuff, it's all about the applications and users. And when we think about JTX, it's like, how do we get the best execution for users?
All right. So for those that are not institutional traders, or when are we doing a Jito pit stop in Amsterdam? Super Team Netherlands asks. Let's get to that later, because you guys also have an educational branch called JET. But for people who are not like institutional traders or MEV searchers, well, let's start with, what is the Jito block engine, and does it still exist?
Yeah, it still exists. So the Jito block engine was kind of our first approach to mitigating spam. And so basically it's a system. I think the best analogy of it is probably like Cloudflare. So it filters spam, deduplicates, finds all the good stuff, and then forwards it to the validator. And so we had the ability for multi-transaction bundles, which didn't exist, and also free reverts too. So basically, if you can send bundles there. If they fail, then the entire thing gets dropped and it doesn't make it on chain. So the benefit of that is that you don't have wasted block space. It's all getting dropped. And then the multi-transaction bundle lets people do like more complex strategies in a single atomic unit, as opposed to sending multiple transactions. And so, yeah, it still exists. I think we have like 7 or 8 regions right now. it's definitely not the main focus for Jito right now. The main focus is BAM, of course, but it's still running. We're still doing like thousands of, or I mean, it's got to be like hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of bundles a day right now.
That's crazy. How much of the how big a percentage of Jito bundles make up for the Solana total transactions?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. At the peak, I know like the REV numbers. So at the peak, we were doing more than, I mean, for a really long time, we were doing more than 50% of REV. And so, yeah, the, I mean, when the Trump token launched, I think we generated the network like $20 million in a single day. And then priority fees for the other 15 million or something. Obviously, it's much lower now. And then I think we're making up like, I think it's like 25-ish% of REV right now. So yeah, the network's gotten more efficient. Priority fees are lower, and you don't have to pay as much to spam because the network's just gotten so much more efficient thanks to like Anza and FireDancer and some of the work that we've done.
Yeah. So the way I understand it, and for more context for the audience, the Jito block engine was basically a destination where you could send your transactions or bundles of transactions. And then if the block producer was running the Jito Solana client, then the first half of, or 25% or any percent of the block would be reserved for Jito bundles. And then the rest of the transactions that were sent normally would come in. So you could basically more accurately find a place in the block for your business, basically.
Yeah.
You guys also had a product called a mempool, which, yeah, maybe it's better if I let it be explained by you.
Yeah. So yeah, the mempool would let you see transactions before they were confirmed on the network. And the reasoning behind this is like you can arbitrage things much more efficiently if you kind of package the user transaction and then you package the arbitrage right behind it and you submit that as a bundle. And for a long time, people were doing that. And then when we saw the meme coins come onto Solana, I think right around like 2023, 2024, there started to be some behavior that definitely was not in the best long-term interest of Solana. And so, yeah, there's stuff like sandwiching and other things that were happening. And so there's kind of like, I would say there's back at the time, there was kind of two main approaches to MEV. One is you just totally maximize it. So you just max extract. If you don't max extract, then someone else is they're going to win. Or, you might have instances where if some people can make much higher rewards for others than a long amount of time, then they can, if you have a validator that's making a lot of SOL, they can take that SOL, stake it to their own validator, and basically that validator can grow much faster than others. So there's like some weird power dynamics going on there. So with that in mind, there's like the max extract route, and then there's the other route of like trying to do what you can to mitigate that. And that's the route that we've definitely taken. I think it's definitely in the best interest of Solana. There's definitely still like some games going on the max extract side even today with some validators. But for the most part, I think it's definitely kind of it's not really an equilibrium. There's always going to be validators that are trying to make more than others. And we're still seeing some of those games being played today. But I was, to be honest, I'm like pretty surprised that a lot of validators were a fan of that move. And I think it was definitely the right move. And now we're kind of taking the opposite approach of like max privacy with trusted execution environments and all this stuff.
I think sunsetting the mempool or the public mempool, because there's still mempooling going on, is one of the biggest pivots for any blockchain company in all time. It's like going from full one direction, complete 180, the other way.
Yeah.
What led to that decision? Because it was not uncontroversial. It was like it had a lot of impact on, well, at least the people who were mass extracting from Solana transactions.
It was. Did you say it's uncontroversial?
No,
Or it was?
I said it was not uncontroversial. So yeah,
Okay.
you know what I mean.
I was gonna say it was very controversial.
Yes.
I think we had a lot of discussions internally for like weeks and talking to ourselves and other people in the ecosystem. Like, what do we do here? I remember when we shut it off, we got a ton of shit on Twitter for it, mainly from people in the Ethereum kind of road, the Ethereum ecosystem, that they had kind of bought into that max extract. It's like, yeah, you're going to get sandwiched. Just don't be an idiot. And I think that's kind of like an unrealistic expectation. So yeah, it's super controversial, but we want to play long-term games, and we are so tied to the success of Solana. Like, we built our entire company, our entire business, all the people that we hire know so much about Solana. And so if we're doing anything that would mess that up, then we're kind of like shooting ourselves in the foot. And so that's kind of what it came down to, is like, we want to build a business on Solana and we want to do what's best for Solana. And we're willing to give up any short-term revenue to make Solana happen. And that's basically what drove the decision.
So for the people that are not, in the ecosystem that well, how does, sunsetting the mempool improve, or work towards longevity on Solana, or Solana being more successful in the future?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just around the user experience. So if you're doing token transfers and like if you're a payments company, it doesn't really matter. For Solana specifically, at that time, it was doing a ton of meme coin volume, and so for those people, if you're getting sandwiched, that's a lot of money that's being lost from users, and so really focusing on privacy and like not leaking those things, I think users just end up getting better prices. And so that's kind of what we're all about now, is like, how do we give people the best prices possible?
Awesome. Yeah. So since then, a lot of things have happened. A lot of products have been built. Your product for better ordering or scheduling of transaction is called BAM. It stands for, let's see if I can get this right. I forgot. What is it the acronym for?
Block Assembly Marketplace.
Block Assembly Marketplace. I knew it. I was just testing, to see if you knew what it was. But yeah, tell us about Block Assembly Place. So we come from a place where people are, well, the tools to mass extract are there, to building a new product that should mitigate that exact behavior.
Yeah. So yeah, on how we arrived at BAM. So we felt like throughout 2023, 2024, and early 2025, landing transactions on Solana was really hard. And so like, we didn't really imagine that the block engine would be used to land a lot of transactions and would be like a super reliable way to do that. But I ended up doing that, and we kind of saw the network was getting better. All the networking, actual networking code and the scheduler code was like the main kind of issues with the network, and the Anza engineers were really focused on fixing that. And so we kind of looked at like what was going on, and then like how do we provide even more value to the network. And so we ended up creating this thing called BAM. It is basically transparent, verifiable, and confidential block building on Solana. And so essentially what it is like a scheduler inside of a secure enclave, and we actually build the blocks in there. And so all the stuff going into the enclave is encrypted, so we can't see it. All the stuff going out of it, it will be encrypted as well. So like we can't actually see what's going on, like the transactions and stuff going into it and out of it. And you can get verifiability on what's going on via the attestations from the secure enclave. So you can be like, hey, what code's running? And you can serve that version to people, and they can go check the GitHub and all that. And so yeah, that's kind of like the main thing is like, how do we build a super deterministic scheduler that is confidential? And then we started thinking like, what are some other things that we can do in here that would be really useful for the network and give people better prices? And so we kind of came up with this idea of like plugins. And so plugins are ways for kind of like scheduler tweaks for certain things. And our first plugin that's live today is the maker priority plugin. And that basically gives market makers that are like adding liquidity on Solana the ability to have their transactions be at the top of every batch. And so what that lets them do is they can just send their updates as fast as possible, and they know they'll be top of batch. So they don't have to worry about getting picked off as much by takers. And so that basically lets them quote tighter and with more reliability. And so we're seeing really good success with that. I think basically every prop AMM on Solana is using that today.
Oh, nice.
On BAM. And BAM's running on like 32, right under 33% stake right now.
Nice. So I had a really good question here. Yeah. So who controls what plugins are active? Is it like the operator of the node, or do you guys turn this off and on, or how does that work?
Yeah, right now it's us. So the BAM source code is still closed source, and we're working on open sourcing it. It's taking longer than we'd like, just because there's a ton of stuff to do and it's block building's hard. But yeah, today there's only one plugin today. It's the maker priority plugin. People just ping us and say like, hey, here's our configuration, and we add it to our database, and it gets propagated out. In the future, you can imagine a system where it's a little more dynamic. People can self-register, like maybe there's a registry on chain and people can push to it. But the shortest path to like proving is this possible and will add value is like the way it's currently built. And so yeah, today we control the plugins that are running.
So would I be able to register as a market maker and get priority on 33% of the network, or do I have to go through some validation process?
Yeah, I mean, if you run like it's mainly just prop AMMs. I think it's all prop AMMs right now that are doing it. And so like you just reach out to our team and, say, here's my program ID. We have a bunch of checks so they can't just like insert random transactions. So it's like, it checks to make sure the program ID is correct, the correct signer, the correct instruction bytes are looked at, and there's like sequence numbers and all this stuff that we look at. And yeah, we would just get that set up in our system and be good to go. And you can actually see what programs are registered today. If you go to like one of the BAM node URLs, it's on port 9090. It's like /API v1 MPP config, and you can see everything that's registered. So there's like a giant JSON list that spits out all the markets and program IDs, and give people some transparency on what's going on.
Is that on a dashboard you're looking at, or is that a website?
It's a website. So the BAM node has a web server on it that you can hit.
All right. Can you send me?
I'll send it to you
Yeah.
after.
No, no. If you send it to me now, then I can show people.
Oh yeah.
All right. Awesome.
It's a giant JSON list, so it's not anything crazy, but
let's see if this works. Let's go. All right. Cool. Oh, everyone's seeing my playlist. Pure chaos. All right, let's go. All right, so this is what that looks like.
Yeah, if you go to the top, and hit, there's like a pretty print option.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, there you go. So it's much easier to read. And your video stream's kind of over it, but I'm sure the audience can kind of see what's going on here.
They'll manage. Here, let me do it like this a little bit. There we go. Awesome.
So yeah, this is like the configuration for our first plugin. You can see there's like the minimum maker LAN ports and like all the program IDs and markets and all that stuff. So yeah, you can see that. And then there's like another endpoint for like API v1 validators. And that shows you all the validators that are connected. There's like there's config endpoints too. And yeah, you can kind of see what's going on here.
All right, awesome. I'll put the link in the chat for everyone that's interested. They won't be able to copy paste it, but they can type it over if they're interested. All right, awesome. Cool. So how does this work towards the long-term success of Solana, and what other parts need to be in place in order, to bring NASDAQ on chain? It's the meme, but yeah, it is what we eventually are working towards. And with the, the influx of capital in RWAs on Solana, like actual stocks on chain, we are slowly progressing there. And it's been a meme for the last 6-ish years, but now that it's here, it's still, somewhat of a meme, but we slowly but surely we're getting there, which is kind of weird and icky. But what other parts are going to need to be built?
Yeah, I think there's three pieces here. There's the tech side, there's the regulatory side, and then there's the kind of like the users. So on the tech side, I think, I love tech, so I'll talk about it all day, but I'll try to keep it a little higher level. When you are a market maker, you want consistent experience. And so like, all the matching engines are like, they're not changing on like the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. A set rule of like, here's how it works. People know how it works at a high level, and the experience is consistent. And when we were like kind of looking at BAM and looking at the data on Solana, I mean, back in like 2023 or 2024, there was kind of just like one scheduler running. It's like Agave Jito. And then as we started to look at what's going on in the network, there's like 9 or 10 different schedulers on the network. And so with BAM, we're like, okay, we know market makers, they want a really consistent experience. They don't want to track like what scheduler is running on what validator, and like I need to change how I quote based on who's running. Like this validator is always picking me off, so I'm going to quote wide, and this one's really good, so I'm going to quote tight. And so with BAM, we want to give a really consistent experience. So it's, running the same auction code on all the BAM validators. It's running with the maker priority plugin, so you can get top of batch, so you can provide deep liquidity. So yeah, there's like that stuff. There's the decentralization stuff, so like getting third parties to run BAM validators, and the decentralization stuff's kind of timely because I'm sure you saw in your Slack, I guess this morning your time, what happened on the Solana network last night. And so getting getting some of the stake distributed, getting more people running validators. It's definitely important. And then on the there's like all the privacy stuff that's really important too. On the regulatory side for stocks, I would say there's probably like two things that would help. One is getting clarity passed. I think it got pushed back to September. And so I don't know what like the poly market or call sheet odds are on it passing this year, maybe like 20 to 40%. It would be really great if that passes, just provides more kind of like what are the rules of engagement for crypto companies. The other thing that I think would help a lot is the SEC was supposed to release a exemption for tokenized securities, and I think there's they kind of delayed it. I think there's some reasons that they delayed it, but I think that would be really big because I know there's a lot of market makers that have a ton of size, and there's a ton of really big market makers that are integrated on Solana. It's like it's public now that Jump's running Bison Fi, and they're like the #1 prop AMM on Solana. There's other market makers that are very big in crypto that are running on Solana, like a lot of the names that people associate with like high frequency trading firms are on Solana, but the really big ones, they can't really touch these tokenized securities right now, or they're kind of scared to, or maybe they're like dabbling in it a little bit. And so if we can get this exemption from the SEC, that kind of like lays the groundwork for these people to trade tokenized securities on permissionless platforms, that would be really big. I think if we could get that, like basically every market maker that's integrated on Solana today would start quoting SpaceX and all this stuff. And right now it's kind of like the market makers at the fringe that are quoting. There's not a ton of competition. Users are still getting really good prices, but yeah, if we can get that going, that would be really big. And then the third part's just users. Like if we want to, it's like a chicken and egg thing. Like what came first, the users or the liquidity? And we kind of need those things to scale together. And if we get a bunch of users using apps like JTX and all the other trading apps, then we'll see more liquidity on chain and like more liquidity, better prices, better users, all that.
So do you think that, that moment when clarity passes, when the SEC, puts all lights to green and really big trading companies like Jump and others are able to provide a lot more liquidity on Solana, do you think that I don't have $5 million to put into SpaceX, for instance. So,
Yeah.
and I'm retail, but do you think there's institutional interest in trading these tokenized securities or whatever as well? Or
Yes.
do you think they would rather stick
1000%.
within, how so?
Yeah. They just want to go to where people are trading. There's a ton of people trading on Solana. I think it's only going to get better. So yeah, I think there's huge advantages to them for blockchains. Like all the trading and settlement is very easy to reason about. They can do more complex things on chain that typically they'd have to tie together multiple pieces on all these different services and TradFi. And so they want to go to where the takers are. They want to provide liquidity. They're in the business of making money. So like if they can make money from people trading, then they're going to go there. And we've talked to multiple market makers on Solana that are kind of just like waiting for this tokenization, the securities tokenization. I'm slurring my words here, but the exemption stuff to come through.
So do you think it's a matter of time or it's a matter of if?
I think it's a matter of time. I think the current administration is definitely very friendly crypto, and I hope that there's stuff passed that puts that just lays the groundwork for like really basic, simple stuff. Because as you know, tides turn in America. They go one way for 4 years and another way for 4 years. And right now, I think there's a lot of people in the administration and kind of all the other regulatory bodies that are really interested in crypto. And there's a lot of businesses that are getting into crypto, whether it's on Solana or Tempo or some of these other platforms that are kind of like more institutional. And so there just needs to be, there's like no clear rules on how to do it. And so like, let's say you want to set up I want to set up like a baking business. I know that I have to set up an LLC. I can go to any website. I can set up an LLC in 5 minutes. I know that like I'll probably need some like food and health, the health department. I gotta make sure that I'm getting inspected and like I'm following the rules and all my milk and eggs are refrigerated at the right temperature and I'm cleaning stuff. And like, that's a very clear rule. In crypto, there's like nothing like that. And so there's like a ton of different ways to set up entities. There's a ton of lawyers making a ton of money that are like doing all these crazy things to like try to be as defensive as possible because there's no clear way to do it. And so with clarity, it's like, okay, let's actually understand like what do we need to do. And like hopefully once that happens, then like you could set up crypto business and $10. You go to like register mycryptobusiness.com, takes 5 minutes and you're like good to go. Versus right now, it's like you raise money and 10% of it immediately goes to lawyer fees. And they're like figuring out how to set up all this stuff to be compliant.
Yeah, I get that. So you already mentioned it, but I want to learn more about JTX because you guys built your own trading platform. Why? You guys are an infrastructure company.
Yeah. Yeah, we feel like there's a lot of room for experimentation and improvement at the application layer. So I think if I were to like want to onboard my brother or my parents or like friends into crypto, and I were to show them the most popular apps on Solana today, or just the most popular crypto apps, they'd be like, what the hell is this? There's like testicle coin and fart coin and like all this stuff at the top when I first pull in. And it's just kind of like unserious. And so we're kind of trying to take a more professional approach. And I think one thing that we're really focused on is like really good execution. So yeah, like really thinking hard about how do we execute trades and like how do we send transactions, how do we route, all that stuff. The other thing is that there's only so much we can do at the infrastructure layer to get more people on Solana. And as I mentioned earlier, like we are so tied to Solana. And so like if there's a world where none of the apps that are bringing users to Solana are successful in the future, or they like get paid by some other chain to go migrate there, then that's not good for us. And like all the other stuff that we've done, like Jito Soul and all the block building stuff. And so we want to try to do what we can to get more people on Solana. I don't think people are going to use Solana because of they're like, oh, BAM is like giving people better prices. I'm going to go trade there. It's like they're using it because it's all the apps that are built on top of it are good experiences. And we think that there's a very large audience, basically the rest of the world that's not on Solana that like trades that we can target. And so those are kind of the main reasons why we're building JTX.
How big is the whole Jito company in terms of headcount?
Yeah, so we are, I think Jito Labs is 30. So we've been hiring a bunch of people recently. I think we've hired like this year, maybe 6 or 7 people, I want to say, at Jito Labs. And then I think the foundation is right around like 13 people. And so like, I guess to back up, like Labs is mainly a tech organization. So we focus on building tech. Foundation is more like governance, tokenomics, business development, marketing, and stuff like that.
Crazy. So 45-ish, sub 50.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you sometimes worried that your attention is too diluted to do any of the many things you're doing properly, or are you guys like really confident and you guys can take on even more and build more of the building blocks that would make, this excellent trading experience?
Yeah, we're like constantly reevaluating what we spend time on and like moving stuff around. And I think we're okay with the way things are right now. For instance, like I think restaking didn't pan out as good as we wanted it to. So like that's kind of running. We're not investing any more resources into it. I we were like ironically we were still the number one restaking protocol in all of crypto for the amount of like real revenue generated. Um, and yeah, I mean we've made like way more real revenue than basically every other restaking protocol combined. But the opportunity there is like not as big as we would have hoped. I would say the other thing is like we're not investing a ton of time into the block engine. It's just kind of like there's a ton of tech debt there. We're really focused on BAM. Like we're working on being able to submit bundles directly to BAM now. So like that's kind of what we're focused on there. And like, we're not spending a ton of time on the block engine. And so we're constantly like reevaluating like what we're spending our time on. Right now, I'd say the two things that we're spending the most time on are JTX and BAM. And so like we're kind of just like, yeah, that there's like a lot to do in this other system, but like we gotta kind of like focus on this. We can circle back to that later if we want, but we just need to like focus on the things that we think are going to make our business the most successful.
Awesome.
And there's a good Travis Kalanick post. I can't remember exactly what he said. It's like the rate. And Travis Kalanick he's the founder of Uber. He got kicked out, and now he's doing his own company called Atoms, which is kind of like a robotics, bringing like robots into a bunch of different businesses. But he's basically saying that like the rate that you solve problems needs to be greater than the rate of problems that you're taking on. And so if you're taking on more problems than you can fix them, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And so that's kind of like,
you're going to
I think
succumb
it's a
to the
really,
problems.
yes. And yeah, you're going to like be like fighting a bunch of fires and dealing with all these shit shows. There's definitely been times at our company where we're doing that, but I think we're like trying to find a good balance between it. And so, yeah, it's like, is this thing that's legacy going to add more problems, and are we going to be in trouble? And yeah, I think the way you solve that is like just trying to focus more. So like kind of cutting stuff that's not super important. And then you can also like hire more people and do other things on like the operations side to make it smoother.
For those that are listening, are you guys currently hiring, and what roles?
Yes. Yeah, we are hiring we're hiring a good amount right now. So we are hiring a front end engineer for JTX. We're hiring a back end engineer for JTX. We are hiring a really cool role that I'm pretty excited for called an applied AI engineer. So basically like using AI tools and LLMs to help our operations team and engineering team move faster. So you're kind of like a like forward deployed engineer, kind of like bouncing between different teams at Jito and like figuring out how can we accelerate what you're doing. And then at the Jito Foundation, they are hiring a growth lead for Korean and APAC and a product designer
Nice.
for JTX.
Awesome. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about where Solana is headed, where the future is taking us. We got 300 millisecond block time on testnet, I think. And then it probably caught fire a few times. But we're working towards bigger blocks. We're working to smaller block time. what's your take on the acceleration in shipping that Anza Labs has shifted into, basically?
Yeah. Anza is shipping extremely fast right now, and we've actually had to like hire more people to help keep up with that. So we just had a release engineer join this week to kind of help us cut releases and test them. Um, but yeah, they are moving at insane speed, and I mean, it really changed like a year ago, but I would say over the last 6 months, it's gotten really fast. It's like the version bumps from v4.0 to v4.1 to v4.2 are getting much faster. And yeah, let's see, we just had, I think like last week we activated 100 million CU blocks. So previously 60 million, now we're at 100 million. And pretty insane jump to just like kind of like YOLO that. But there's like a ton of stuff that was detected on the network. It's like we're seeing um, like a lot of validators that were running in cloud environments were not able to keep up. There's a ton of XDP stuff. There's like now there's more. I think there's some like bottlenecks in block store now where like all the blocks are getting stored and all the shreds are going in. And that's like stuff that you would have never found if you would have just stayed at 60 million. So that's really cool to see them doing that. And then, yeah, as you mentioned on testnet, we're going from 400 to 350 to 300 to 250 to 200 millisecond slots. I think that's a really good move.
Do you really still think that after, for context, we had one of the major infrastructure providers for physical infrastructure providers for Solana have an outage last night, and
Yeah.
we almost reached the point where we couldn't finalize transactions because a lot of validators went delinquent.
Yeah.
Shortening the block time also means that you need a lot lower latency to vote on blocks. So
Yeah.
what I think, or what I'm wondering, I don't have an opinion. I'm not smart enough to have an opinion on this. But what I suspect will happen naturally is we're going to shrink the surface area of the network towards Western Europe, probably. So validators in Tokyo, Singapore, West Coast, United States might have more trouble voting on blocks and reaching consensus. Are you thinking that's like a really something I shouldn't worry about, or?
I wouldn't worry about it. I think there's more important things to worry about, and I think that Alpenglow will fix a lot of that stuff. So it just completely changes. Like there's, it removes the timely vote credits and things like that. Um, I'm not like super familiar with Alpenglow. I know some high level stuff, but I'm not worried about that. Um, I would say the 200 millisecond slot's really good for more rapid leader handoff. So if there's a malicious leader, they have less time leading the network. Obviously, like MCP and that type of stuff will come down the road as well. But I think the number one things I'm looking forward to are the lower slot times, Alpenglow. It's like it'll be much easier to reason about consensus. The finalization will be super fast, and then just a ton of the performance improvements coming in Agave. So like I've been looking at all the commits that are coming in, and there's a lot of like really good performance improvements. And so I think that will let us get like we could probably double block size again after that.
Yeah, that's going to be insane. And we saw record numbers of transactions on Solana. So increasing the block size, reducing the block time will, it gives so much more room for transaction inclusion and room for,
Yes.
transactions in general bigger transactions, which is also like
Oh
a
yeah.
very, a much requested feature. So yeah, I'm really optimistic, but I'm also curious whether everything is gonna go as planned. But I'm Dutch. We're not delusionally optimistic usually.
Not like the Americans are.
We're at an hour, by the way, so I'm not sure if you need to drop. I have so much more to
No, I
talk.
can keep going.
All right. I really want Roger Wattenhofer, who is one of the lead people on the Alpenglow, to come on the podcast and talk about Alpenglow. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure. He's probably not a fan because he probably didn't see any of the episodes yet. Um, what do you think is a question I should have asked, but I haven't asked you yet?
Um, is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, some people asked about a Jito pit stop in Amsterdam. It was Super Team Netherlands. Quick shout out.
Oh yeah. Um, I think there's a super team there, right?
Yes.
Or and then there might be a jet team there too. I'm not positive on that. We don't have anything planned. I think the next things that are coming up for us are we will be at Breakpoint. A bunch of the team will be there in London. And then there's kind of like an Asia tour that smaller group, maybe like 4 or 5 people will go to. In I think it's in Singapore, maybe South Korea as well.
Nice. I'm jealous. Aren't you guys coming to Solana Summit in Serbia? That's going to be like a huge one.
Oh, really? When's that?
It's in 2 weeks, and apparently
Yeah.
it's over 4,000 people registered already. So it's bigger than the first breakpoint and bigger
Nice.
than the second breakpoint too. Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna
Yeah.
be crazy.
Yeah.
All right, final question. What was the biggest MEV capture in a single sandwich attack that you guys ever saw on the Jito public mempool?
Oh, I'm honestly not sure on that. I've seen some big arbitrages. Um, I've seen like 800 sol, 1200 sol arbitrages, like tips. I mean, there's been some massive arbitrages that didn't pay a high tip too. So like hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Um, so yeah, it's still extremely competitive today. Um, and yeah, it's really hard to compete on arbitrage now. People have just been spending so much time on it, and the game has kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of that revenue is going to prop AMMs right now, I think.
Um, yeah, I mean they're not actually making that much money, the prop AMMs. Um, I mean, I I haven't done any of my own data on this. This is just like what other people have told me. I think Sol USDC is just so competitive that it's not. They might make like a few $1,000s or like tens of thousands. I think it's less than 6 digits a week on Sol USDC for like the best ones. And so I think what we're starting to see more now is like I was looking at some meme coin the other day, and there was a prop AMM for it. So I think you're starting to see some of these prop AMMs go out the risk curve a little bit and start to make markets on like whatever the hottest meme coin of the day is. Of course, it's like a little more risky, um, but you're not going to be competing with these like super large market makers and like everyone and their mother is quoting Sol USDC on prop AMM. It's like the number one prop
Yeah.
AMM. Uh, so yeah, people are going to start to go out the risk curve, and there's probably a little more money there, but it's a little more risky. Well, there's maybe more money it's just less competitive. It's like um, there might be a little less money to be made. For small shops, it's probably worth it though.
All right. I'm gonna ask my final question, and then we're gonna outro.
Right.
What advice would you give to people who are coming into the ecosystem, are looking to build a Solana product, whatever it is? You are obviously one of the more established household names in the Solana ecosystem. You went from joining a hackathon to one of the most influential infrastructure companies on Solana. What advice would you give someone that starts?
Yeah, I would say there's a few things. One is the most important one, I think, is get on Twitter, start posting. So start asking people questions and like gaining your following. That's kind of how I got started, is just like showing up in threads, asking comments, engaging with people, trying to build your community, whether it's like Twitter DM groups or Discord or Telegram or whatever it is, like getting to groups, getting to meet people, kind of just figuring out like what's broken. I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening around markets right now. It's like new types of assets to trade. There's some stuff around like making it easier for market makers to quote. There's been like a lot of social experiments, but yeah, finding your community, posting on Twitter, doing a hackathon is really good. I think it's a way to, it's an excuse to build something really quickly. And the tooling has just gotten much better. LLMs are just like really good now too. And what else? Yeah, I would just say like you gotta be. I think it just goes back to Twitter stuff. But like people have an attention span of a goldfish, and so if you have to repeat yourself so many times and just like keep hammering it. So if you're building something, you got to be on Twitter, and you got to be doing hand-to-hand combat and like getting out there. If you're trying to get people to use your product, like DMing them on Twitter. That's actually how like Pump.fun got so big, as Elon was going up to just DMing a ton of people getting to use it. And you gotta do things that don't scale in the beginning to make it.
Yeah. And use Trident One as your infrastructure partner, obviously.
There we go. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time, and thanks so much for your patience, and thank you for building what you built, and the pro Solana choices you made with Jito. And I look forward to seeing you in real life in London for sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Next week I have Noah from, well, formerly Helium, now Velocity, which is the restart of the Drift platform. Is there anything that you think I should ask him?
Oh, I would say, I mean, there's all the obvious stuff, but I would ask him like what's different about working at DeFi protocol compared to like a depend protocol.
I will.
And then I think it's he's in a very unique situation. He's like, this protocol got hacked and then his protocol got acquired, and so he's like going through an acquisition and then also joining a team that just had a security incident. That's got to be like a big change. So
Yeah.
I'm curious how he's doing and handling that, and like any lessons learned or anything interesting going on there.
All right, I'll make sure to ask him. And if you're curious about the answer, tune in. Next week's episode is going to be 2 hours later than what the live audience is used to, because of time zone differences. But make sure to tune in, check the announcement. Lucas, thanks so much for joining in as well. And I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.